Amazing.
Who put this out?
I don't know. You can find all the information online, but go check out Dark Legacy about the Bush family and the history of them. It's pretty amazing. If 10% of it is true, it's the most amazing thing you'll ever see.
See, but that's my problem with a lot, and from both sides, or all three sides, depending on how you want to look at it. There is so much out there that the candidates, the current candidates for both of the major parties, and so many other people that have done so many horrible things, yet there are still people who insist on making up lies about both of them. And it's like, you really don't need to do that. Look at what they've actually done, and we can condemn them for that.
Yeah. Oh.
I think it hurts your side, because we do know that Prescott Bush ran George H.W.'s father ran a bank that
bank,
had Nazi money. He was a Nazi sympathizer, notorious racists throughout the family line. There's no need to make shit up about the Bush family.
There's a lot.
Like the Clintons have, I'm sure, done a lot. Killing Vince Foster and 20 other people is not one of them. I wish people would, you lose credibility when you're trying to bag on Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, and you start spouting conspiracy theories.
Yeah, which is all they've
so
got
talk about the reality, and I think that's one of the reasons is that having been in the public eye for 30 years. We already know all the dirt there is to know on Hillary.
Yeah. It's pretty much out there at this point.
And when you try and manufacture new stuff like Comey,
I mean, the fact that this FBI thing and the Comey thing with these emails, like in some universe, it's the same thing as Trump. Perhaps, maybe, we're not sure. Raping a 15-year-old girl. Both those things are out there right now as sort of conjecture. We have some emails. We don't really know what they said. They're not really from her, whatever. But we're going to run with that and leave like Trump and his
grabbing ways,
pussy grabbing, child raping ways.
Or Clinton's
aside.
husband and his raping ways, and then her.
See, but he's not running for office.
He's not running for office. And first ladies are never vetted the way that presidents are.
She destroyed the lives of many of his accusers.
That, again, is a totally manufactured right-wing conspiracy meme.
It really is.
It's being used. It is such hearsay. There is no evidence of any of that. It's hearsay, and using the whole model
of
the
women,
jealous.
And as all feminists say, you must believe the victims.
The jealous, the
survivors.
Yeah. Well, I
always believe the victims unless they were raped.
I do
by
believe
Hillary Clinton's husband.
No. I do believe the victims. I do Clinton. I don't know that he raped anybody, but I do know that he, diddling around in the White House. I don't question that at all. But this assertion that Hillary went and intimidated and harassed his victims.
Well, listen to the women talk about it. You believe them or not. A lot of these women, they're not necessarily Republicans.
A lot of these women. How many women have actually said that?
You just have to read the transcripts of the various women and listen to their
various
interviews.
Who are who are they?
I don't have it all memorized. I've watched them. Mm-hmm. I've watched them on YouTube. I've listened to them. I've listened to that news story, but you're right. I do not have a list here.
I just have never seen because I've been listening to this argument for over a year, and I get it from my very own two daughters who, before the primary was giving me that line. I was like, I would like to see the evidence. They were like, oh, no, but I heard it. I know it's on the internet.
Well, there's a lot of propaganda on the internet, but we also, again, we have WikiLeaks emails showing the coordination of the CNN, for instance, the Clinton News Network, and the Clinton campaign.
Here we go.
She's approving what they can say proving questions, and she was also handed debate questions before the other candidates, before Bernie. And,
No, she wasn't. But she wasn't handed. First of all of those none of those were trick questions. I mean, the whole idea of somebody got the answers. You go into a debate, you prepare, you know what some of the questions are going to be because these are the hot plate issues. We're going to talk about trade. We're going to talk about immigration. We're going to talk about whatever's been ripped from the headlines since the last debate.
Clearly see the coordination, and in those emails from WikiLeaks, you can clearly see the coordination between the Clinton campaign and the major news networks. So, and you do not see
giving her the answers to the recent presidential debates.
She had the questions beforehand, so she could prepare, and Bernie didn't.
Yeah, again.
And she's pro-war, and Bernie
I agree.
wasn't.
Yeah, she is pro-war.
And Bernie blew it during the whole debate and did not go after her at all.
He was not a serious candidate, and
Yeah.
that's why he wasn't elected. And I voted for him. I'm not an anti-Bernie guy. I'm not at all anti-Bernie.
Totally anti-Bernie.
But he was not a serious candidate.
Except his views on civil rights and restraint. There was a lot of things I could agree with him on.
Me too.
But then the other side, it was like, completely fallen off the truck, off the cliff. It was like, that's just crazy. But, on civil rights and things like that, in the war, certainly.
Well, speaking of crazy and candidates, if you don't mind me asking, who are you voting for?
Gary Johnson.
All right, we'll get into that in just a minute. But first, it is time for a word from our Wonder Woman, Erica Schickel. It is a word from Wonder Woman.
Here we go. Hey, folks, listen, this week I'd like to take on that wing of the American political party that is so smug, so close-minded and self-satisfied and knee-jerk that they always prevent conversation around politics. Who is this dogmatic gaggle of group thinkers gumming up the works of enlightened conversation? Well, hey, it's us, liberals. A notorious Republican friend once told me that there is no fascism like that of the West Side Los Angeles liberal. It was, I will grant you, an extreme statement, but last night I got to see it in its full goose-stepping flower. I went to see a play called Vicuña at the Kirk Douglas Theater in Culver City. Written by John Robin Bates, Vicuña is ripped from the headline story about a right-wing political candidate being fitted for a very expensive suit for the final presidential debate. The playwright recycles the latest news straight from his Politico feed. The candidate, like Jake Seaman, is a thinly veiled Trump avatar, bloviating, falsely friendly, utterly Machiavellian. He is confronted by the tailor's apprentice, a fired-up young man named Amir, a former Harvard student and son of Muslim immigrants. Confronted by Seaman, who predictably spurts unmitigated racism. Yes, there were several Seaman gushes type jokes in the play. Oh, so well played, Mr. Bates. And threatens to have Amir's parents' immigration status investigated. In Act 2, Amir, goaded by Seaman, gives him a big, fat, spit-showering, impassioned speech that is in every liberal talking point from the last year, white privilege to pussy-grabbing. The play ends with Seaman's expensive Vicuña suit falling apart during the debate, leaving the emperor literally with no clothes, in case we might have missed the message that had been hammered into us over the past 2 fucking hours. And yet the golem stands firm, footlights illuminating his face from below, just like how kids put a flashlight under their chin while they're telling ghost stories to heighten the spooky effect. It's a dark, despairing non-ending in this play, the implied message being, as it is with all works of art that cop out of an elegant, sentient conclusion, hey, real life is just like that. Cruel, brutal, lacking in punchlines, clear of reason or even a point. The lights came up as we applauded the actors, sure, but mostly ourselves for being so comfortably on the right side of history. We gathered in the lobby for a post-show discussion, assembled on tufted banquettes in our Warby Parkers. We discussed the relative merits of the show. I looked around at my liberal brethren and realized we were a Fox News audience in sustainably manufactured sheep's clothing. in mug, comforted by having our own views parroted back at us. We praised the actors, referenced George Bernard Shaw, and the conversation lasted just long enough to draw out the delicious anticipation of a post-show peak. When we departed, comforted by our convictions, our needles safely unmoved on the dial of political or any other kind of consciousness. So, if we think we're not as guilty as Republicans in the stultification of the American political conversation, then we are still living in the bubble that Aaron Sorkin blew for us back in the 90s. The bubble is real, people, and it's suffocating us. We need to get out of our insular little cells of self-satisfaction and engage in a larger conversation. Right-wingers, if we can find any here in Los Angeles, and engage them in something that approximates a dialogue. But we are an army of group thinkers out here on the left coast, and, well, I don't know where to go with this. I'd like to conclude this rant with an elegant, sentient conclusion, or even better, a punchline, but I can't because, you know what? Real life is like that. This is Erica Schickel, your CausePod Wonder Woman, signing off.
Thank you very much, Erica, and always a pleasure to get the perspective. Show worth seeing?
No, I think not.
All right.
I think it's pretty much a waste of time.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a few minutes left, and led into this asking Mark who he's voting for. And I'm a little confused because you said that you side more with liberals, but you're voting for Gary Johnson.
Well, there's a lot of liberal positions. You know, the libertarians aren't really liberal. They're not really conservative. They're just against what's called the initiation of force, which means, you know, leave me alone. You know, you can't, if you're going to attack somebody, you know, eventually someone's coming to your door if you don't pay that tax with a gun. You know, pretty much the government is the only entity that's authorized to use force in our society. Libertarians are against force, they're against war, they're against violence, and they're not against self-defense, they're against the initiation of force. That means you can't start it. So that's what I believe in, no matter how unpopular it is. And
see, I would definitely agree with that Gary Johnson is a non-starter.
Well, you know, I always vote for the whatever poor, misguided fool is nominated by the Libertarian Party, because we're here in a swing state, you know, and even if we're not in a swing state, so even if I wanted to support one candidate or the other, it won't really matter. California will go to the Democrats. I don't think we supported a Republican since Reagan here, and he was a former governor in California. So, you know, we didn't even get out and vote for Jerry Brown, who was our governor when he ran for president, you know. But I would hope that the voting Libertarian would push the Democrats away from their anti-civil rights positions they now have, which are, you know, unlimited detention. You can be held forever without a trial, without a lawyer, and also away from their war stance. And I would also hope it would push the Republicans away from their social conservatism, you know, and because it's not really what the Constitution says, you know, as I was talking about earlier. Yeah. So that's what I would hope it would do. But both parties, you know, there's a libertarian end to the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, like the anarchist end of the Democratic Party and the freedom movement end of the Republican Party are libertarian leaning. But both parties, you know, those seems to get weaker and weaker and weaker each year. And what I think is good, you know, a lot of the things that if the Democrats were really against war and really for my civil rights, I'd be against it, and for a woman's right to choose. But and if the Republicans would really reduce government and lower your taxes, I do, but they're not. Both sides go completely against whatever it was they're supposed to be for. Yeah. I was so hoping that Obama would get us out of this war, but then when he got in, he said, no, we're going to have the surge. We're going to spend even more money than the Republicans were spending, win it, and then get out. Of course, we never got out, and the spending level never went down. Yeah. And, you know, it's like Republicans vote for what they want, Democrats vote for what they want, and they don't get what they want.
Yeah. You know, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I like that about the libertarian side. I mean, can't imagine a man as clearly intelligent as yourself voting for that numbnuts Gary Johnson. But
Who's a very nice guy.